Welcome back to How Do You AI. In this episode, we're speaking with Jeff Brown, CEO of Pave Talent. We'll get into what Jeff's recruiting agency does and how he's bringing AI into his business. Thank you, Jeff, for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, let's kick things off with a quick intro. How do you how did you get started, and then we can jump into your AI workflows and anything you want to show. I'm super excited for today.
Yeah, definitely. So how I got started. So I'm part of entrepreneur organization. That's how we know each other. And, I think just being involved in that community and hearing, whisperings of what people were doing in AI early on, just with the chat bots and the web version a couple years ago, that really just piqued my interest. And then start slowly, starting listening to podcasts, starting listening more and more to what people are doing. And now it's a whole different beast. But that's kind of how I got started, is just being in a community of people that were always on the cutting edge and hearing what they were doing.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and how you started your business.
Yeah, definitely. So I started my business in 2018. It's a recruiting agency called Pave Talent. We help companies nationwide in all 50 states hire for tough to fill tough to fill roles. We have multiple different kind of divisions of the company. One major one we focus on is different manufacturing companies. But really, I started my business because I was working for a large recruiting agency. And in 2018, I went through a period of time where I was just feeling burnt out and feeling like I really needed to work from home. And at the time, work from home wasn't cool. And so I just kind of advocated for myself and for my health at the time. I was going through a lot of personal things. And I just said, I really need to work from home. So I left that company, which was like a large $300 million staffing company, to work from home. And then I ended up, getting a call from one of the clients over there saying, "Hey, can you support me? I really need your help still. I know you left, but I really need your help." And that ended up being a huge opportunity and a huge deal that ended up launching my company. So I was really working in the industry for a couple years, learning the ropes while someone else was paying you, and then applying that to your own business. And it ended up working out really well.
Thank you for sharing your story. That's awesome. From an AI journey perspective, and I know you run a business where you have employees globally. How did you, more specifically, start with a tool, and slowly how did you bring AI into your business? If you want to show some things today and talk through that journey, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, AI has evolved so much. Now I find myself not using any of the web-based apps anymore. Now I use only Cloud Code Daily, which has access to a main folder on my computer, which has all the memories and all the systems and, all our proprietary data. And so, the main systems I use day to day the most now are going to be Cloud Code as well as Tasklit. And I'll talk about Tasklit in a second here. It's kind of a fully autonomous system. And I can walk through one specific workflow of, just one example. I have over 30 different examples. I try to do as much as I can in Cloud Code because it's more inexpensive, but Tasklit is also an amazing tool that I really like, that is a fully autonomous. He basically that allows you to spin up fully autonomous agents really easily without having any technical ability. Because just to surface on this, like I have no technical chops at all, but somehow through daily iterations, I've been able to figure a lot of this stuff out, which is awesome, and I really love learning about it.
Thank you, Jeff. I mean, I want to double click on that, right? You're a founder, entrepreneur who's super passionate, and you said you don't have technical capabilities, and you're one of those entrepreneurs that I've seen that really has adopted agent loop, right? The whole agent loop in my mind is you are using as much as possible automation loops, and you're bringing humans more like for really the areas where they specialize in, right? Human in the loop only where needed. So, like that mindset of getting into this, like it's not easy for a lot of people. A lot of people are resistant, or a lot of people sometimes dabble and give up, or some like they evaluate the browser chat versions. But to get into as deep as you have, like as you show some of this stuff, love to keep going into that topic because I think I'm super excited about that journey.
Yeah. I'll share my screen and start walking you through some like very specific examples. The first one being what really got me going with fully autonomous agents, which is Tasklit. And before I start sharing my screen, I'll preface this with saying, I think in any industry, no matter if you're in recruiting or anything, like the salespeople are oftentimes really good at relationship building, but they're really bad at updating the CRM, like following the system, right? And so I guess I'll anchor my example today around that because I think it relates to a lot of business owners of like the sales team not doing the administrative burden part of it, they're just doing the sales part, and they'll be like, "Who cares? I got the deal." Like, I don't want to log it in the CRM. But if you have a national sales team where it really matters that people know who's talking to who, that the customers are updated in the CRM, that the data is real and is live. So I'll kind of walk through that specific use case today of how I use Tasklit for that. And this is kind of only, I mean, it goes so far beyond this, but this is, I think, one example that will really resonate with people.
Awesome.
So I spun up a Claude Code website because I might as well. It only took me 10 minutes to spin up a Claude Code website so I can use it as I'm telling you about Tasklit. So Tasklit is really got me started, like I said, in the autonomous agent field. Now, this is more of like an AI teammate that handles the work that you used to used to handle you basically. So, Tasklit is fully done in the cloud, and you don't have to prompt it, you don't have to do anything. Once you set it up and go, it's good. So this is kind of what the user interface looks like. There's Basically, you can upload files, you set up different connections. A connection would be like setting up your calendar, setting up your phone so that it can text message people, setting up your Notion, setting up your HubSpot, setting up your Salesforce. So all of those tools can talk to each other. And it's as easy as just saying, connect to my HubSpot. There's a computer which uses a virtual web browser. There's triggers. Some of my tasklets have like 21 different triggers. So it'll be like, every time a transcript comes in, do this, or every time a new contract gets uploaded to the new contract form, do the new contract process. And then there's actually a contact methods button as well. So it can text and email anyone that you want it to text and email, and they can text it and email it back. And it can basically, your agents can communicate with whoever you want it to contact. So I have some agents that are contacting my mom, and my mom has a database of everything, all of her mom's basically records, and she can basically, it's kind of like a mental health advocate or like a health advocate for my mom's aging parents. So she's able to do that. And so that's really cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So with Tasklit, it's really not a workflow. It's a full teammate. It's fully autonomous. It runs on a schedule or when something happens. So you can basically tell it to do it, to run every hour, or you can tell it run every time this happens. And then it's powered by AI. So you can either make it powered by ChatGPT or Claude. Originally it was only Claude, and now it's powered by both. Now, the power of that is that it's not a if this, then that. It's fully thinking, reading, and deciding, right? It's not just a workflow like a traditional workflow that you would make in Zapier. And then it's fully connected, right? Some of my most complicated tasklets have over 14 different tools connected to it, from Google Drive, Notion, HubSpot, Calendar, Slack. I've also built custom things in there as well. Um, so the difference between, like, I think a lot of times people compare this to Zapier, but for me, it's nice because you just describe it and it builds itself. I don't have to build it. All I have to do is have clarity in my mind about what I want. It can handle really messy, inconsistent things, whereas Zapier, you have to make sure it's not messy or it breaks right away. It also reasons through every edge case because you're actually using the models to reason and make decisions for you so that you don't have to be involved. It's also just in plain English, and then it thinks first and then acts. So the example I'm going to share today is, and I guess I'll stop here before I dive into the examples. Do you have any like questions or anything there? Should I dive right into the example?
No, let's dive into the example. I think the most important takeaway is for me is understanding that this you have so many business workflows that you've automated, and and you don't have a tech team, and you are still able to do a lot. And this is amazing that I know you mentioned in the past that you wake up and you have an idea and you just go at it, and you have it ready and you try it and you iterate it. The key point there is iterating each one of these workflows. They're not done one time, but you just iterate it over a period of time. So that's awesome.
Exactly. So one of the examples that I think applies, like what I talked about before, is, every time we get a signed contract, I want to make sure that it's fully processed and that all of the things that need to happen when we get assigned contracts, which I found that was bogging down my sales team and it was just taking them too long and it was delayed. And I really wanted it to happen in real time. So I created a Google form where people could just upload the signed contract and then AI can do all of the rest of it for it. So I'm going to kind of walk through what that looks like first, and then I'll show you exactly in Tasklit. So, it's 15 different steps. So, the first thing that I told Tasklit is, well, I'll kind of step back into the instructions, right? So it says, process the new PDF as a fully signed client recruiting agreement. First, download the PDF and extract these fields: the client legal name, the signatory title, the signature date, the fee percentage, the net payment terms, the billing trigger, the AP email. And then it looks up the history, searches my Gmail for any prior conversation with this client, searches my Google Calendar for any past or upcoming meetings. In Notion, it finds the client's existing page, or it creates a new one if one doesn't exist. It updates that page and that database with all of the contract details, what the fee is, what the terms are, what the sign date is, the accounts payable info. And then in Google Drive, I like to always double dip. So I like to log it in Notion and Google Drive just in case
Okay.
one is ever broken. So, it'll find the clients folder in Google Drive, make sure it uploads there. It also renames it. So all of the agreements follow the same naming structure, which I find is really helpful when you want to search it in the future.
Fantastic.
Then it also goes into HubSpot. It finds or creates the company record. It adds the billing address, all the stuff that we added already into Notion. So it's kind of logging in 3 different places. And then it opens a new deal and makes sure that the deal is fully up to date inside of HubSpot. So my other sales team members know, like, don't touch this client because the deal is officially, done. Um, and then when everything is done, it emails me with a summary with links to the Notion page, the Google Drive folder, the HubSpot deal, and it logs the contract internally so it never runs twice. And it flags anything that needs attention. So it's also looking for things that were not done correctly in the contract or in our process. Um, so basically, the first thing, like, I'll show you, diving into Tasklit, let's say, what, before I start prompting it, I could just go, connect to my HubSpot and just kind of check. Like, I'll show you how easy it is to connect, right? So it says connect to my HubSpot. It's going to work for a second here. And then it thinks and it says, oh, you already have a HubSpot connection. Let's pull up the available tools. And so in this case, it already has the tool. So it's saying you're already connected. I'm trying to think if I can show you one that's not connected. If I to show you how easy it is. I could just tell it, can we unconnect and show how you connect for the first time / reauthorize HubSpot? So the nice thing is you're able to really just chat with this in plain language. So here's what it is. I'm going to delete HubSpot now. And now I'm going to say, so now this is how it looks for the first time when you connect to HubSpot. I'm going to show you how easy it is and how non-technical it is. So all I have to do is say, let's create a new connection to HubSpot. It says connect. It'll say continue to HubSpot. It'll open up HubSpot. And I'll just click sign into my HubSpot account, sign in with passkey. I'll use my fingerprint. And then I'll just select this, choose account, and then it's done. So now it's fully connected to my HubSpot, and now I can have it do whatever you want. And for a lot of the users here that are thinking of other use cases, you can just say, tell me about some of the most common use cases I could automate in HubSpot. Give me the top 5. So if I wanted to build out this agent, you just chat with it, and then over time, when you think of something new, you come in the morning and you keep chatting with it. So, and you can ask it, what are the most common use cases? So in here, it says, here are the top 5 HubSpot automations people love to set up. New lead alerts and enrichment. When a new contact is created in HubSpot, automatically enrich their profile. That could get expensive really quickly. So you want to be careful with things like that. Deal pipeline reports on a daily or weekly schedule, pull the deal pipeline data and generate a summary report, deals by stage, total value, stale deals, CRM sync across tools. That's kind of what I told you. What I like to do is
Yeah.
update it across Google Drive, Notion, data hygiene and cleanup and follow up reminders. So when I do this, say, I would basically tell it, every time I upload a newly signed contract, can you extract the details from that contract and update Notion, Google Drive, and email me a status update afterwards if it was successful? If you ran into any errors, please text my phone number.
And what do you use for text and email? Just for anybody
Yeah,
that's
so
not.
I use Quo. I use Quo, which used to be called Open Phone, and that has an API. But in this case, you don't need to know that. This actually, Tasklit will just text me. It has its own built-in system, so you don't have to have any special system for it to be able to text you. It can text anybody, Android, iPhone, whatever. But in my case, I actually do have Tasklit sending text messages to people and creating contact records, and that's because we use OpenPhone, which has an API, full API connection into this. So
Got
it basically, but one thing about this is it's super easy to create, and it just talks to you, right? It says, "Love this workflow. Let me get the pieces in motion. I'll add your phone number as a contact method for error alerts and start planning the setup. One question: how do you want to upload the contracts?" So then in this case, I don't actually want to upload the contracts in here because that defeats the purpose. So I'm going to say, I'm going to have my sales team upload them into a Google form. And I want you to trigger when the form is complete. After it's complete, grab the contract, extract the details, and update all systems. And it'll just slowly ask you questions, right? Like, so right now, I could be more detailed now that I know what I know, but for the purposes of a general audience, I'm kind of being vague so that people know that this will tell them what it needs to know as they do it, right? And sometimes I'll be sleeping, at night and I'll think of something new and I'll come in here and I'll create a new agent for this. Something that's important to note, though, is there is Claude routines now. So I do try to use Claude routines as much as I can, but sometimes Claude routines are just not fully built out in the way that Tasklit is. So I have started to migrate some of my Tasklit things off of Tasklit and into Claude routines because it's more of the direct API costs. So something to note is up here, you can see the coins and you can actually see how many credits you're using and you can view your usage details in terms of how much it's costing you. So that's also an important note is you want to try to only use Tasklet for the things that Claude can't currently do for you. If you know how to use a Claude routine, do that as much as you can before you lean on Tasklet. I will say that Tasklet is a lot more built out than Claude routines and it can do a lot more than Claude routines. So that's why I still have to use Tasklit because Claude routines, some people would argue that it can do this or it can do some of these things, which it can. But for a lot of people, using Claude Code and setting up routines is too complicated. So this helps a much wider audience be able to utilize autonomous agents. So yeah.
That's awesome. How much of the company you would say, from a process perspective, looks like you start all the way to sales and APAR, like, how much have you automated already from that standpoint?
I mean, we've automated a significant portion. So now we've automated like all of the applicant reviews. So all the applicants get reviewed by autonomous agents and they automatically if an applicant is good, they automatically get texted from the system using that open phone API. And They automatically get invited, via Calendly to the recruiter's calendar and, all of these things, right? So now the salespeople no longer have to go update all the systems. All they have to do is upload the contract. The recruiters don't have to worry about reviewing all of the applicants. Now the recruiters still do the borderline applicants. So there's like a category that says, "Oh, I'm not sure about this one. You should review it." So there's still a human in the loop, but so we get over 15,000 applicants a month, so it's really hard to keep up. So we have to automate it. There's clear yeses and there's clear nos, and then there's the middle ground. So we're able to basically dwindle those 15,000 applicants down to underneath 800 that are not a clear no and not a clear yes. So it's somewhere a human review, right? So there's still a human in the loop, and the AI agent emails the recruiter and says, "Hey, do you tell me yes or no?" And then I'll go schedule them on your calendar. So that's what I love about Tasklit is it got me for the first time into like being really fully autonomous. And then once I learned that, then I really started diving into Cloud Code and said, okay, what can I use Cloud Code to do versus what can I use Tasklit to do? So I'm not ranking up the credits too much.
That's awesome. And you have a Teams account for Cloud Code, right?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
have a
how you
team.
work?
Yeah, I have a Teams account. I haven't really fully trained my whole team on all the different advanced Cloud Code things I'm doing because it takes it. It can be scary. So right now, I'm the only one using Cloud Code. The most of the team is using Cloud Cowork or Cloud Web, but they all share projects and do very similar things. But the next on my list is really stepping into my team and training them how to the power of Cloud Code and Cloud co-work so you're not always having to reprompt it with the same things and you have a good folder system set up with the right memories. So now I've mastered it and now I need to teach other people how to fish now that I'm at this stage.
Awesome, awesome. Well, what about like your own fears around this, right? How did you get into that mindset that like it's very easy to procrastinate for a lot of people saying, this is not my thing. I'll do it tomorrow. I have so much to do today. So what was your mindset around really doing it? Because I think you're one of the few guys I know that has done really well with autonomous agents.
I think just making sure that, I pay my team to connect with humans. I don't pay my team to update administrative tasks and it's just like I want to make sure that my team I haven't laid off anybody. All of this automation has been around making sure that my team can spend more time on the phone talking to customers or talking to people, and less time logging things in the system, logging things in the database, scheduling calls, right? I really want my team as much as they can to just go from one meeting to the next during the day. Obviously, they need some downtime to do some strategic work in terms of like just more strategic thinking. I just don't want them to have downtime just to catch up on administrative burden tasks where a virtual assistant can do that or an autonomous agent can do that. So I've really that's what's inspired me the most is just making sure that my team can do at the core of what they really like to do and kind of automating all of that thing around it that's like the not fun stuff of the job.
And how big is the team? And from a growth perspective, have you seen a direct correlation? And also, I know since AI and automation agents are doing a lot of that work for you, how can you grow way more now than you would have with the same size of the team? Maybe it's a three-question part, but
Yeah, yeah. So the team size right now is right around 15 people. The nice thing is that a lot of the growth is happening like with AI making the team more efficient before we grow headcount again. But once we grow headcount, it's going to be really powerful. And it's a really good selling point of how advanced our systems are. This is a tangent, but that's why the benefit of working for a small company right now is so important because small companies can leverage the best tools and the best software. Whereas if you're working for a big conglomerate, it's like a multi-million dollar decision to switch from ChatGPT to Claude or to update the next AI tool. So I think more than ever, it's important for smart people to work at small companies that can move and iterate fast and be agile because you're going to be on the cutting edge of everything if you're working for a small company that's able to keep up with the. I mean, it's changing week to week right now. It's kind of crazy, but as long as you have the right mindset and you know how to approach it, it's not as stressful once you get your mindset correct. But I'm trying to think, did I answer all your questions? What else did you?
no, I think you did. You're now well equipped for growth because of everything you have already set up. I think that was your answer in terms of is there
I,
a direct correlation to growth you've seen because of these systems and
oh
automation?
yeah, definitely. Especially like some of our roles are complex and it's like hard to understand when you don't have a science degree or when you don't have a degree in metallurgy, right? And so I think the team is really able to interview significantly better and screen applicants better because sometimes it's not A plus B or 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? Sometimes you have to read between the lines, and some words mean that they do have the skill, but it's not using the words that you're expecting in the resume, right? And so now I find that the team is much more productive and they're learning what they used to learn in 3 weeks, they're learning in like 1 day because AI is teaching them, oh no, this means they have the skill. Even though their resume doesn't say the terms that you're looking for, I can see that they have the skill. And it's kind of teaching the recruiters what used to be like a 3 week process because they would have to learn from, working with the client or working with the team. And now they can just be coached by AI, rapidly overnight.
Wow.
I think
You,
you were going to say something too. You were saying something about being scared about AI or something about,
yes.
because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people are like, I don't want to give it access to my systems or.
Yes, yes. The fear of AI is another thing, right? A lot of people like you've almost given everything, right? And I also like the idea that you're backed up in multiple places. So, if one system gets hacked, you still have. So I like that redundancy you built around Notion and Drive and all of that. But I'm just curious, how did you get over that? Because a lot of people just stall, knowing that this is gonna your contracts are now with AI, your everything, right? From a security perspective, it's hard to build businesses and you're giving so much access. So what was your mindset around fear?
Yeah, I mean, with the team account with Claude, everything's kind of, I mean, I really don't know the technical answer to this. Somebody listening can probably school me on this, but I feel like because we have the team account, everything is boxed in where it's not being shared with the models. And we have already set up all of our settings so it's not being shared with the models. And then all of the stuff we're doing in Tasklit has no confidential information. We're not dealing with like social security numbers with anything in Tasklit. Everything is public data besides the contracts, but the contracts are not being uploaded anywhere that's public. So I kind of look at it though, like if you're not using AI, it's only a matter of time until you're RIP. It's only a matter of time until you're in the grave. So it's kind of like you don't really have a choice. If you sit on the sidelines because you're scared, you're gonna end up getting buried because you're at the how quickly it's changing. I mean, it's so easy to be super productive and just be like a super human. And so I just feel like there's really not a choice because I don't want to die.
Love that. I mean, that's the mindset. That's awesome. What are the, like, I would say three or five things, or like, one thing, it doesn't matter, between Tasklit and Cloud Code, like that were wow moments for you, like when you discovered like, wow, this can happen. And you're
So
like,
I've been using Tasklit for a while and and Claude Code could not do anything. Now they set up routines in the cloud, which so that's like the first time. But Tasklit's been around now for at least 6 months, and now Claude finally set up their cloud managed agents and routines. So that's nice. It's still not as seamless as Tasklit, but the wow moment was when Tasklet started reviewing all of our applicants, reaching out to them in the text message, scheduling them via Calendly, and there was no human in the loop. It was just like my recruiters would come in on Monday and be like, "Cool, we have 4 new interviews today because Tasklet set it up for us, right?" And so that was the biggest wow moment. Was like, wow, we had a recruiter or a sourcer working for us all weekend long and we didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So that was the first wow moment. The second wow moment was when I could build a website in 10 minutes. So, that website I was just showing you that I was using today, like I probably built that at 30 minutes before we got on the call today. And it took me less than 7 minutes and it looked great. And then I also just built a website for my ADUs in the backyard. It took me 20 minutes. It's incredible. It looks like I paid somebody $10,000 to do it. It has pretty advanced features inside of the website in terms of like photo wheels. And I mean, it's just incredible, right? And so I think the biggest wow moments for me were the fully autonomy with Tasklet and Claude routines in the cloud where you can just let it run. I think spinning up a website that looks like a $10,000 agency, did it. The big unlock for me as well was Claude Code and pointing it to one folder. So like I'll have like a Claude Playground folder in my Google Drive, and then it's really organized, right? It has like the About Me file, it has the overarching architecture of the folder, it has all of our clients, it has personal, it has operations, it has internal, and each file has its own like architecture and hierarchy of like that folder's memory and then each subfolder's memory and all of that, right? And so now I don't have to remind it all the time or tell it all the time who I am or what my preferences are. Because every time I'm done with a chat, I say update the memory folder, update the Claude MD file, right? And it just updates it so I don't have to say it again. And then I also have Cloud Code connected to Obsidian and I have it connected to Claude Mem with the GitHub. And not that technical, but I saw that I should be using Claude Mem, so I did that as well. So those were like probably the three biggest unlocks was, fully just working directly inside of Claude Code. Oh, I would say actually the fourth one is also developing my own MCPs directly through Claude Code. So like, we use Loxo. I know you know what Loxo is, the applicant tracking system, but like building out my full MCP where now I can just tell Claude Code, open up this job in our applicant tracking system or do this. And it's just able to fully just open up the job and do it perfectly so that we can just get to the recruiting part and not worry about the administrative part. So building my own MCPs as well
Awesome.
inside of Claude Code instead of using the predetermined ones, right? Because Claude lets you just connect to Gmail. But I wanted it to just send the email for me. Once we get in a good rhythm, I don't want to have to send it all the time. So I created my own MCP. So now my Claude can just send the email without because I didn't want to wait. I'm just like, I gotta move, you know? So
What you said there, right? That's the key. I think even I've heard Jeff Bezos and one of the friends I remember working with their top sort of strategic teams, and like he would say things like the speed is the key. Even if you have a lot of code that's redundant across projects or things happening, the goal is not to make you're not waiting on other people. If you can move 10x faster, so does your business units and so does your value proposition to your clients. So I think that's a big takeaway what you said, just how fast can you move between all of this and adopting that, right? So Jeff, if from a Claude Code or Tasklit, how your learning process was, right? We haven't, because it's not easy to your mindset on researching this, but to be able to really even deploy an MCP once you built out like all of these things that may not come natural to a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are trying to do this. What was your learning process like?
I think just asking Claude what I should ask next. Asking
Okay.
Claude from the perspective of the software developer, how would they start this? So, like when I started developing my first website in Claude, I would have the mindset of what are the best prompts around the web that are trending on Reddit and are trending on these things of how systems or architectures of how people are using Claude Code to make a website. So then I would have it analyze the web and do all the things, and I said, now, out of the 5 prompts you just gave me, what's your favorite and why? And then it says to me, okay, now let's use that system to rebuild this website for my ADUs. And so it says, okay, so now we're going to do design first, and then we're going to do this next. And then I said, now walk me through one by one. Don't get too carried away because I can only deal with one bite-sized chunk at a time because I'm not technical. So I was like, let's start with the most important thing first. Okay, now what's next? Okay, now what's next? Okay, now let's go back through and audit everything. Is there anything that we could have done better? Okay, now let's continue. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now audit this like an award-winning marketing and design firm that just won the biggest award in May 2026. How would they look at this website and what would they tell you?
That's awesome.
So you have to keep asking questions. And I like this is where 95% of the people fail is they just take the output and they move. But if you spend a little extra time, bouncing back and forth, asking it to read it from the perspective of the lens of an attorney, from the perspective of a award-winning design firm, asking from the perspective of a database and architecture, is it sound on the back end, right? Like all of these things, which I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about code. All I have is a marketing degree, but I know the right questions to ask. Or I think I do. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome. And how's the you know ge- now that you're seeing outcomes, right? And you still spend a lot of time. So how much time are you spending first on Cloud Code and Tasklet on a day-to-day basis? I know as entrepreneurs, we are in our businesses, if not 24/7, at least beyond the sleep time. We're always take a shower, you're thinking, you're doing, thinking. So how much time do you spend on these? And then what does it make you feel from I know you talked about EO. EO is feeling. So what is the state of feeling from that perspective?
Drained. It makes me feel drained because I work now twice as long as I've ever worked before. I get up in the morning at 6 a.m. I'm starting on it. I go to bed on it. I've started skipping the gym because I'm just so excited about these weird little things that I'm doing. in these systems, and my mind is just in awestruck. So I need to get back to a normal, healthy lifestyle where I'm actually going to the gym after work and I'm actually doing all of the things, because everybody that I know, and I know that anybody in that's already at the level that I'm at, in Claude is saying like, "Oh my God, I've never worked so hard in my life. I feel drained. I feel irritable." Because you're just like geeking out, right? And then you have an idea when you're in the bathroom and you thought you were about to go on an outdoor walk and you're running back to your computer because you thought of something when you're going to the bathroom that you just couldn't. So it feels like I'm a crackhead sometimes, like a Claude code crackhead. And I really need to not be a Claude code crackhead. It's a good term. I've never thought about that before, but I'm totally one. And I really need to figure out. And because right now it's so new, there's so much opportunity. I've accomplished so much with it, but there's always something more. But I really do need to get back to like a sense of normalcy and try to figure that out. But right now, I would tell you that it's a double-edged sword. I feel like I'm the most engaged that I've ever been in my work. I'm the most excited, but I'm also working the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I'm irritable and I'm drained, but I'm also really interested in the work that I'm doing, really engaged in everything. But it just seems like, you know, yeah, it's just a lot. It's a double-edged sword. It's kinda like the world right now, right?
Sharing that. What about, you know, uh, you've done things outside of just work also, right? You mentioned an example of, your mom. I've heard you before you talk about like, hey, what is the best thing I can watch? This is my precious 3 hours on Friday evening. I want to watch like
Yeah.
TV. Like, what are other things that are beyond, work agents have you've done that you feel like have solved some problems or helped you in any way?
Yeah, well, specifically, like, with my mom, and dealing with her aging parents, you know, I wanted to connect my mom to an AI agent that had access to all of the knowledge that was relevant to her in her city, what programs they had access to based on their income, what their diagnoses were, and how to handle that, how to manage the doctors. Because as a lot of us know, if you let the doctors just run with it, a lot of times you really have to manage the doctors. You have to be very detail oriented. And so creating that system that was able to coach my mom through everything, what programs they had access to the government based on their income levels, how to manage their care and how to manage the doctor, and building email templates to email the doctor to make sure everything was written after certain appointments and all of that. So that was one AI agent that was really helpful. And it was actually able to text and email my mom. It's even able to fill out applications and stuff like that. So like if we need to fill out an application, I'm like, we can have AI do that in a second. And then on the entertainment side, yeah, I have my AI agents that basically scrape the web every week. And on Friday, it tells me like the best rated shows across all streaming platforms. And then it ranks the movies all in the theaters each weekend. And it tells me like, here's best to worst. And it looks at, IMDb, it looks at Rotten Tomatoes, it looks at Metacritic, it looks at everything across the web. And it comes up with like one unified score. Because if I only have, 1 or 2 nights on the weekends and I have all these subscriptions I'm paying for, I wanna make sure I get the most bang for my buck. So I
Uh,
want sure I'm watching the best of the best. So I have a dashboard that shows me it. Let me actually see, okay, now that you ask, let me show you really quickly. I didn't show you one thing inside of Tasklit, but I have an app, and let me just
that'd be great.
so Tasklit also spins up apps and dashboards. So this is really awesome. I love this. So so basically in here it has all I created an entertainment dashboard. So in Tasklet, you can just say, okay, can you turn this into an app for me? So every week it updates the new shows in here. And it will so now I can see the unified score is 98, 96. It tells me the Rotten Tomato scores. It tells me more details below. What's the best reason to watch this? What's the biggest risk? Who's it best for? Who's the cast? You can watch the trailer by clicking play. I can rate it after I've watched it, and then I can click this button that says mark watched or mark not interested or mark star. I actually do want to watch Hacks, so I'm going to add this to my wish list. I like The Boys. Last of Us I already saw, so I'll mark it watch. But basically this I already watched this. I loved it. This Sheep Detectives was really good for anybody out there. I liked it. I actually cried. Um, but anyway, so yeah, it's kind of and I can break it out by platform sources. Is it AMC? Is it streaming? And I just kind of came up with this idea and asked Tasklit to build it out for me. Probably not an efficient use of my money because Tasklit we still charges, it's not cheap. But it's amazing. I love this thing. This was just me nerding out, trying to do something different than, my work that day.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Right, that's beautiful. Right, I think like the key is, I think we all, as busy entrepreneurs, how do you manage your time efficiently? And I think that was a great example. Or helping our parents. I mean, I deal with that all the time. So knowing, you have help and using AIs that they can interact with in the form of text or whatever the medium they can from WhatsApp and still be able to connect that with an agent, that's great.
I will
Uh,
make a small I'll make a small print because Tasklit is not cheap. It's a lot more expensive than Claude because it is fully autonomous and it sets it up. So you have to in the beginning, it's important to just get in and learn the system and set things up. And then you got to scale back and you have to really ask it like, how do I optimize for cost? How do I, initially I was like getting really gung ho that I was like, scrape my email every 20 minutes and clean up the email and categorize everything. And then I realized, well, that's going to cost me a lot of money. So maybe I should only pull it every 2 hours, or maybe I should only pull it at 8 a.m. before I get into my inbox, clean up all the, inbox from overnight. And then the rest of the day I can manage it myself. Or so that was like one of the tools, for example, that I went into Claude Code Routines, and I did that in the cloud because it will be cheaper just using it directly from the Claude API because Claude is able to do that. And then there's other ones where Claude just can't do it yet. Only Tasklet can do it. So I only do it in Tasklet. So I will say, if there's people that are like, oh, I can't wait to go try Tasklet, it's like, just be warned. It's not $20 a month. It's not, it can be, right? But like, I started with like $100 plan, and then I went up to 250, and then I went up to 500, and now I'm paying 3,000 a month for it. But it is acting like a fully autonomous employee, probably like 3 different employees. So it's worth it for me, but it gets expensive fast, and you can't just be like gung ho going at it and thinking you're good, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is crazy.
I know you use Shortwave too. I thought some of those things Shortwave, the email app does from a summarization or managing email.
Yeah, Swordwave is not as robust as Tasklet though.
Yeah.
I because it's more rule based, like Zapier. Like I was giving that presentation in the beginning, it's more
Yeah.
like it this than that in Shortwave. Whereas Tasklet actually is using the models to think through what is this the actual intent of this email. Whereas Shortwave is just going to be like, if it matches this filter, then do this. I mean, it does a little bit more than that, but doing it directly in Claude Code or Tasklet is the best. And I'll kind of end with this, which is it's always best just to use Claude Code directly because if you can, because the ultimately all of these things are built on that. You know what I mean? It's either built on the ChatGPT or Codex, or it's built on Claude Code, and everything else is kind of a wrapper around that right now. So that's the thing. And Tasklet is not a wrapper around that because it has systems and things built out that Claude just can't do. But most things are. So it's like if you can just work directly from the system that everything else is kind of wrapping on top of right now, it's the best.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Because even I noticed that using directly Claude Code application versus using Claude Code inside VS Code, I found even that to be slightly better in some scenarios. So do you use Claude Code directly, the tool, or do you use inside the VS Code from a terminal, or how do you use Claude Code?
I use Claude Code directly in the Claude app. So like I have the Claude app downloaded on my
Mac.
Mac, and
Yeah.
is that what you're talking? Is that so? I
Yes.
don't.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
sometimes it tells me like go in your terminal and put this in. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
code tells me when I have to go to the terminal, and the terminal scares me. So I'm like, tell me exactly what to put in the terminal, and then I'll copy and paste what's in the terminal and put it back to Claude Code and be like, okay. And then Claude Code tells me, okay, now do this, right? So like, I definitely don't know what's happening in the terminal, but Claude Code helps me when I need it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Jeff. I mean, this was really amazing, and I think walking through your examples, uh, I've definitely learned a lot. I'm sure anybody watching this would learn a lot. So appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. And if you have any other final thoughts, otherwise, it's a wrap.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I hope you have a great day. This was fun.
Thank you.
Bye.